Good evening and welcome back to the channel. It is Monday evening. It is time to talk about Celtic. And let's be a little bit calmer than we were at the weekend. It is Monday. We've all had a chance to think about the result at the weekend. And the question was at the top of the video, can Brendan Rodgers sort this mess out? Can he sort can he can he sort it out? That's the big question. Um It's going to be an interesting one because we only need to get back to winning ways. There's not a lot going wrong at Celtic apart from performances. And once we get players back, I think everything should be okay. Yo, Kaiser, hope you can get on. When you look at it, we haven't dropped too many points. We've had their first defeat at home for 3 years. First defeat at home for 3 years. And it was probably a hard one to take. And yes, the performances have not been good enough at Celtic over the recent weeks. But can Brendan Rodgers, as a manager, turn things around? And I'm going to say yes, I think he personally can. I think that going forward, Celtic just need to get back to winning ways. They need to stop at the silly mistakes. We've not got Europe to worry about anymore come the new year. So we go on a little bit of a run now. We tighten things up. And will Brendan Rodgers make massive changes? Well, he said himself, he said January will take care of himself, take care of itself. So we're 1 point off worse than the COVID year, says Cell 67. Good evening, Lorna. How are you? Let's get jumping and get some of the comments up because let's make it as inclusive as always. Right, evening, Baz, from James. Solar24 says that Brendan Rodgers looks peed off, but who can blame him? He has to sort this mess out. Um, it's going to be a close season. It is going to be a close season, but that's what we wanted. Let's be fair. Um, there was a time that people said that we need a strong them in the league. Well, after 2012, it's taken a long time, but it looks like they might actually have their act together and have a manager that, anyway, we're not talking about them. We're talking about Brendan Rodgers turning this round and what he has to do. Now, there's one interesting thing that came out about the weekend is Celtic, the Brendan Rodgers talking to the coaches of Armada Wacker, who were over just seeing Celtic last week and seeing what goes on behind closed doors and everything to do with that. And the manager asked about Big Toby, pardon me, and Matthew Anderson, who are currently out on loan to the team. The sporting director says that even though they're at Celtic Park and a disappointing result, said Rodgers asked about the two youngsters and how they were getting on. He said it was interesting to see what goes on in the way that the winning mentality. The winning mentality is installed at everyone from an early age. It's impressive. And he believes that Celtic can progress young players. Anyway, that's that. We'll get that one out the road. When we look at players that are at the club at the moment and we look at the transfer window, obviously the big thing is what players can we get in January? Because let's face it, as James says, it's going to be painful going forward if we don't get the players in. And that is true. Danny Boy says, "Can we talk as grown ups tonight? No sack the board sound bites." I think the fans that go to games, people that go to games, and pay good money to go to Celtic Park. And I've paid a lot of good money over the years. And it was funny because someone said on the channel today, "Have you ever went to games?" Oh dear. And so I pointed them out to the very first video that I did of Celtic back in the day. But Neil Lennon is manager, and I'd been going to games for many, many years before that. So I've paid my dues when it comes to that. And yes, I've been to 2 games this year. So there's his answer. Anyway, James Smith says it's going to be a painful season. No trophies at the end of it, he reckons. We've still got the cup. We've still got the Scottish Cup to play for, and we've still got the league to play for. It's not all done and dusted. We're only halfway through the season. It's not done and dusted. We've got our transfer window to help put things right. So I think saying that we won't win anything this season is probably jumping the gun a bit. I think, yes, we were all disappointed at the weekend result, massively disappointed the way that we performed. Usually, when even on Celtic TV, they were saying before the game, when you play Hearts on paper, it always looks a hard game. And then when you come to it, the scoreline says otherwise. So it was a bad day at the office. There was a lot of bad mistakes made. And we move on. We move on for there. Tamak's in the house. Hail, hail. Kaiser is in the house also. Celt 67 were 1 point worse off than the COVID year. Sacked the board and the managers. sacked the board and the manager, and it was interesting to see that there's still people saying the Green Brigade need banned for starting the chants of sack the board. Well, they must have shouted it from the London Road Celtic Supporters Club because that's where them and the boys have been watching the game recently. Anyway, Lorna says good evening. James says no hope in hell can Brendan Rodgers turn it around. Graham Hardy says hail troops. Slaven coming in from Ireland says Brendan Rodgers has made us worse. Ange took average players and got them playing like Barcelona. Every team. Right, Slaven, I'm going to rewind you back to the beginning of this year, even though we did win the league, right? Excuse me, my throat tonight. Even though we did win the league, look at the performances towards the end of the season. Look at the performances from after we beat the Rangers. Look at the performances from then onwards. It's nothing new to anybody that goes to games every week. I mean, we looked towards the end of last season, we were woeful. We were absolutely woeful. And I think that Brendan Rodgers came in and all he had to do was pick the players up. He didn't have to change too much. A good motivational manager would have seen that, in my opinion, and a good motivational manager would have asked the questions. Hence the reason that he had that meeting in Palma with Callum McGregor, that 3 hour lunch, and he basically got to the nitty gritty of what was wrong with Celtic. And he's basically failed to do that. And now coming out saying that they haven't got the quality, it's probably been a wrong thing for Brendan to do. But Ange taken average players and got them playing like Barcelona. James Forrest, never in the team. Turnbull, never in the team. Greg Taylor, I'll give you that one. All the other players that are currently in the squads, do you know, Ange Postecoglou wasn't playing them. David said he likes the optimism, but I don't share it regarding Brendan Rodgers. Michael is still grumpy at the weekend. Misty, hail, hail, Baz and chat. Chris says, hail, hail, big man. I can hear you, Baz, no sound. Graham, you always say no sound. The sound is absolutely perfect. I checked it before I came on. So I went and pulled the other one. Let me see what's Paul Beard saying. I missed that one. Brendan Rodgers can't turn things around in his opinion. Should never have been brought back. Let's not turn it into a dig at Brendan tonight. Let's talk about how the team can go forward and how we can get back to winning ways tonight. Because I think that's what's probably the most important as a fan base. And let's face it, when things go bad at Celtic, they seem to be blown out of proportion, I'm going to say. Um, And it is a club like no other, and the club is right. And when I say that, I don't say that lightly. I mean, when you look at the fan base, I look at the stats for this YouTube channel, and I see where people watch this channel from around the world. When you see the pressure on players to win every single game, it's a lot of pressure that some of these young players coming in from other countries are not used to. I mean, you can get away with in most nations getting beat once or twice a season and still win the league. At Celtic, you can maybe get away with one loss a season and 3 draws. We're currently sitting at around about that. So going forward, we need to go on a magnificent run of games. So saying that Brendan should never be back, we need to deal with that. He's on a 3 year contract. We're half a season into a 3 year deal. So, I mean, can he turn it around realistically? I think he probably can, but he's going to have a fight in his hand and he's going to have to pull out all the managerial experience that he has. And just be thankful that we don't have Slippy G. We don't have anyone that will slip and then let it slide away. Or if that was to happen for a second time, I'd give this channel away to the highest bidder. Paul Loomis says, hail, hail. Pure incompetence, complacency by Rodgers, the players and the board. Complacency. I think it's probably a complacency by the board. Definitely, I definitely give you that one, Smugglove. It's complacency by the board, thinking that we're ahead, that we don't have to spend too much money to just stay on top and be top in Scotland. Which I always said, you need to always spend to make them better. You know, this buying in players that are 2 to 3 million and trying to make them better. We've brought in far too many prospects this year. We all couldn't believe what we were seeing during the summer and the amount of prospects we come in. Now, this is not a dig to any of these players, and it's not saying that they're no good enough. Maybe if you'd brought in one or two prospects each season and going forward, yeah, you could understand that. You could accept that. But to go in and bring in the best part of nine prospects, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. Anyway, Kaiser says the choice is clear. Sack Brendan and pay him off and get a new manager who can get a performance out of these players, or invest in Brendan and allows him to spend more money. I think when you say that, I think when we look back to the transfer window and going back to last season, we all said it. We needed a left back, we needed a striker, and we needed a goalkeeper. Nothing's changed. The only thing that changed was Jota leaving, and we should have replaced him. We didn't really like for like. Let's face it. We'll now sell our club for £1. Says we're going through a bad phase at the moment, but Celtic will turn that around and get back to winning ways. I totally believe that as well. I said at the beginning of December, historically we always drop a point or two in December. We've dropped a bit more than we've dropped in a long time. And I think that going along with the performances, I honestly thought after the win, and we did say after the game, after the win against Feyenoord, was that just papering over the cracks? Was it just papering over the cracks? Chris Sutton definitely believes it was just papering off the cracks, and it's shown to be true. The win against Feyenoord did nothing but paper over the cracks and give people a good shout and something to scream about on the night. Anyway, David agrees with Paul Baird. Sean says Ange comes in and gets his signing thick and fast. Brendan's returns on Lowell, ends up in the window. Yeah, let's not even talk about that tonight because that's pretty much depressing. I do believe that it's not just Lowell that needs to be questioned here. I mean, if the man running the show is Nicholson, Nicholson has to say, look, it's my gig. You're basically there in the background, and that's all your position is. Your position isn't to get involved in the day-to-day running of the club. Your position isn't to get involved in what goes on with transfers and such. So, with that being said, he has to put look. He's Lawwell's golden boy, and that's why he was given the job. And the rugby guy was kicked out because he wasn't part of the Celtic family as such. Even though he'd been a Celtic supporter all his days, but he just kicked with the wrong ball. Anyway, Danny Boy says every defeat is a blow. It is that, but it's not a sprint. We've got time. It's not a sprint, but we need to sort something out. There's something going on, and hopefully this week gives the management and players and everyone involved to have a right good think about it. And let's face it, Brendan Rodgers needs to do it on the training pitch. That's what it comes down to. That's what he's paid for. Hugh Costello says, "Oh, Baz, we can't have it both ways. We can't blame Rodgers for saying better players needed. Then he's lost the dressing room. I think when Jota had a huge chunk of the team morale left with him. I don't think it was just when Jota left. I mean, there was three important players left Celtic last summer. Now, Aaron Moy had a fantastic second half of the season. He played at the World Cup, remember, and he was absolutely fantastic in that midfield beside Callum McGregor. Carl Starfelt had his haters at Celtic, and a lot of people says that he shouldn't be playing there. He wanted to move. He knew that his girlfriend was moving to Spain, and he wanted to move to Spain also. It's fair play to him. Fair play to him. You do that. You chase after women sometimes in life. And then when we lost Jota, well, when you're getting offered the money that he's got, it was a no-brainer. We still only needed to bring in about 5 first-team quality ready players rather than players that we did bring in. Anyway, Martin says, "Take off your hat. You look like Meg from Family Guy." Martin, no, no. I wear a hat every day, so no. Anyway, moving on for that. Got a ticket for my first derby in a long time, says, oh boy. I'm looking forward to playing like this. Yep. San Francisco Celtic says the board needs to hire stewards to throw fans into Parkhead if we lose if we lose the game. Yeah, Diane, evening. It's nice to see a miracle happen for once on Sunday. A miracle happen for once on Sunday? Was there? Have faith. Things are going to get better, says Lorna. We need to get back to backing the team and the manager. I have said it, and you still get the odd comment saying that the Celtic Park's a better place without the Green Brigades. Well, it's not the video that I wanted to do tonight, but the atmosphere is absolutely terrible just now at Celtic Park. And when you can hear a small band of fans, and let's face it, it wasn't the full stadium singing "Sack the Board," "Sack Lawwell." It wasn't a big amount of fans, but those small band of fans were heard. Were heard, and you can't blame that on the Green Brigade. You can't blame that on the boys because they weren't there. They were sitting down London Road in the Celtic Supporters Club watching the game, totally bemused, just like the rest of us that was watching it on television. You were totally dumbfounded at what was going on. And even worse, that they're just sitting down the road and they knew that they could do nothing to help the team, nothing to help the team. And fans, let's face it, when you can hear someone standing in the main stand shouting abuse at the board, and then everyone switches on their phone because they can hear it and they can see it, and phones are that good these days that they can zoom in and put it all over social media. If the boys in the Green Brigades were there, the guy probably would never got his 5 minutes of fame. He probably would have never got his 5 minutes of fame because no one would have heard or seen paying attention what was going on. But because the stadium was that quiet, there we go. The guy gets his 5 minutes of fame. It's a bit more than 5 minutes, but then there we go. Anyway, Hazel says, keep the faith. Still a double to go for. Get the support back in the park. We need that roar back. We do need that roar back. And I think it is having an adverse effect. When people can say the place is better off without the Green Brigade and whatever, but the lack of atmosphere, the severe lack of atmosphere at games is having an adverse effect, and that's just my opinion. Anyway, Doc says we need to bring in experienced guys from the Premiership who are not getting a game time. Experienced guys from the Premiership that are not getting a game time. I'm going to say one person, Nat Phillips. So Nat Phillips type of player, really? Is that what we want at Celtic? A Nat Phillips type of player that isn't getting game time at Liverpool? And that's the type of thing that we want to bring in? No, it's not. We want to just go out and pick players that are playing for teams, for God's sake. Don't get me started tonight. Brendan looks lost, says, Michael, the league was one, remember, Raz? Yeah, the league was, yeah, James, right? When we're talking about back to last season, and the league was maybe one, right? But when have you ever seen a team that's won the league? Right, we always change it a bit, but the way that Ange Postecoglou changed the team around towards the end of last season, we were playing absolutely pants. He then brought in players that did not do it. We've been left with those players this season, but Brendan Rodgers is expected to lift those players up and expected to make them better, which is his job. But anyway, can Brendan Rodgers turn this season around? We're still top of the league as it stands. We're still top of the league. You know, we still have the points advantage as it stands just now. So let's just see what happens come May, as he said. John, what's well the doom and gloom with two defeats? We'll run amok with them on the 30th. That's more like it. That's more like it. And I think we will. When I didn't watch that game yesterday, but I believe that they scored in the 90th minute. If we get our shooting boots back on, and Keogh needs to get his shooting boots back on, and we need to get this nonsense of the final third, we need to just do it. And when you look at it, if Saturday's game, the one by Turnbull, the shot by Turnbull, if that had went in, it's a different game altogether. You know, it's a different game altogether. The Brøndby striker, if we had bought the Brøndby striker, would we still be in Europe, flying top of the league with a moral high ground, short-sightedness from the board? Yes, and it looks like we're going to get priced out the market for the Brøndby striker now. There's no chance that we're going to go in and spend the money on the Brøndby striker now because they're now wanting about 8.5 million the value for him. We could have got him for about 4.5 million in the summer, but the board didn't want to pay that. We went in, I think we went to a maximum of 4.3 million for the sake of the 200 or 300 grand. It's got Lawwell written all over it. It's got Lawwell written all over it. It's terrible. Anyway, Martin says, cut the losses and let Rodgers go. It's not the defeat, it's simple. There's no fight. Our players and our team, they should have beaten Hearts. Higher paid, more skill. The lack of fight and respect. Lack of fight and respect from the players. It is an interesting one, and I have said before, I said Brendan he cannot keep on saying that we're going to go into the transfer market and buy in more quality because, let's face it, the players will go onto social media and they'll watch Celtic TV to see what the manager's saying. You know, they want to see what he's saying in public. compared to what he's saying in private to them. And he's already had conversations, we believe, with players that will not be there after January. Maybe that's why they've hung up their boots, as they said. Al Armstrong says, we will. Not Stone away to Hill. Hill, this is Anne Chilpel. Bit late, better than never. This is true. San Francisco says, if the players don't fit our system, you need to change it until you have the right players in place. Brendan bears a lot of blame. I don't believe a good manager changes his system to the players at his disposal. A right good manager, a top manager, will change the way that he wants to play to bring out the best of the players. Simple as that. When you're in a position that Brendan's in, he should know that. He should know that, and he should see. You said, listen. We'll go back to the beginning of the season, and Brendan in pre-season, and Brendan talking about him talking to players, sitting down with players and talking to them, talking about their ambitions and everything, saying that he was a complete opposite from what the previous manager was, saying the fact that he likes to get inside in the mindset of the players. Where's all that gone? Where's all that chat gone? Where's all that positivity gone? Is it the fact that they think you're full of mate? You're absolutely full of right. That's that smell. Michael says, doom and gloom. It's not just about the defeat. I know it's not due to the two defeats, but it's the manner that we've been playing. I can say that the squad is worse now. Says Slaven. Paul Bear says the board and Brendan are both responsible, reasonable for what is happening, and neither takes responsibility. No, they're both responsible, and the board are never going to take responsibility. The only way a board takes responsibility is when they sack a manager, um, which is always the same. Alistair Bell says Clement has won Rangers silverware so far. What's Rodgers won for us? Oh dear. You're forgetting about the trebles you won in the past. But anyway, we'll go on from that. Smell the Glove says, we've been crap all season, no point plastering over the cracks. Right, we have been, and we have been woeful all season, but look at the amount of injuries we've had, right? If Ange Postecoglou's team was missing the players that Brendan's been missing, let's be honest. Tell me in the comments, would we have still been as successful, right? Would Ange without Jota, with Ange without Aaron Moy, Ange without Carl Starfelt, Rio Hatate, Dyson Maida, right? Cameron Carter Vickers at the beginning of the season. 6 first team players. Would Ange Postecoglou still have been as successful? Not a chance. Not a chance. Ange Postecoglou had the mainstay of a team that were there week in and pretty much week out. He never at one time had so many players out injured. Not a chance. So I think we need to bear that in mind. And we did say Rio Hatate will be back. Rio Hatate will be back. We need Leo Labada, who's knocking on the door. He's back in training, so we need him back. These players will make a massive difference. These do make a massive difference. And yes, the buck does stop with the manager. But at what point do we look at this point of the season and say, do we then go down the road that we're like Hibs? We go down the road and we say, look, we're top of the league for goodness sake. Do we go down the road and say, right, we'll sack Rodgers just now? Then what generally happens is the team will get a little buzz, like what the aim across the city have. They've got a little lift when a new manager comes in. Then all the players that were out injured come back and are fit and raring to play and everything. And then because everyone's feeling good again, they go back on a run. You don't necessarily need to change the manager just to have that. That's telling a blind eye, says James Smith. Chilwell says, we've scraped a few results lately while playing appalling football. It's now caught up with us. Yeah, well, you can say that. You can say that, and I'm not going to disagree with it. I think that everyone has their voice, and it is up to Brendan to get us playing better. Anyway, going forward, James says Brendan has to go. The cracks will appear again unless treated correctly. The cracks. Yes, Celtic are a great team, just missing Hatate and Abada who can open up defences. Definitely. That's all we need. They open up defence, and then we're back to it. And I will say one thing, leaving Dyson Maida on the bench for the start of the game at the weekend was pretty much criminal for me. If Brendan doesn't watch what he's doing, he's going to back himself into a corner. And this is my only worry about Brendan. Is he going to be stubborn enough to say, back me or sack me? Back me or sack me because I want better players? And the management, the PLC will sit, the board will sit and go, well, we had a manager that had us playing fantastic football, Brendan. You're this advocate of fast attacking, pacey football, you say, but you're not doing it. You're not doing it. So it can only end one way, and that's going to be lose the league. And Rodgers is off, says Michael. I think Rodgers wouldn't show his face if we lost the league. I don't think we will lose the league. I think there's still a lot to play for. Still a lot of football to play for. With Hatate, Maeda, and CCV back, get a new keeper, a new left back, and a physical hold up striker in January, and we can turn it around big time. Exactly, Davey. I think we can. I think we need a striker that. O's not a Celtic striker for me. He's a nice young lad that will have a fantastic career about him, but he's just not a Celtic material striker. I was watching the goals from Lee Griffiths earlier on today. I was watching the goals back from when he scored against Joe Hart for when playing Scotland, were playing England, and he scored two, one at either side of Joe Hart. We need a striker like Lee Griffiths. We need a striker like Lee Griffiths that will get stuck in. Let's face it, Kyogo gets knocked off the ball far too easy. Kyogo gets knocked off the ball too easy. He's not got the physicality. He's 28-year-old. He doesn't have that physicality that we need from a Celtic striker. For goodness sake, Henrik Larsson wasn't that big built, right? But he still managed to hold his own and push off defenders and everything and put up a bit of a fight. It's where I think that's where Kyogo lacks sometimes. And I think he sometimes gets dominated by defenders. Alistair Bell, he says, it's not just about on the pitch. Our board attack our loyal supporters too. Yes, well, don't even get me started with the boards because I've got the I've got the war winds, the Bannon letters and everything still in drawers probably. Anyway, Slavin says force Desmond to sell his shares to the fans. No, I'd be against that. I'd be against that because when you look at the debt that the likes of Barcelona and everything, even though that they're spending millions, hundreds of millions on a brand new stadium, I don't think Celtic would be right going forward, fan owned and having a fan majority ownership. Um, our fan base is going to get one. Our fan base is too disjointed as it is. Having fan ownership, and I'll explain my reasons for saying that. Celtic have always had a fantastic support, and the Celtic Supporters Association umbrella for the Celtic supporters clubs from all around the country that go to games never agreed to everything 100%. I've been in many meetings when I was a part of the Celtic Supporters Association. I almost got voted onto the board one year at a meeting, but I managed to keep my head down and dodge the bullet for that one. Our fan base are far too disjointed. When you've got a fan base that are as disjointed, and if you maybe have a fan base like a Newcastle, where everyone stays in the vicinity, and you've got a town like that. But when it comes to Celtic, you've got a majority of fans that aren't from Glasgow and that travel in, and everyone has their own different opinions. So having a fan-owned system at Celtic, I don't think would win. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. But personally, I don't think that it would be suitable for Celtic. So I would say not to sell his shares to fans. That's just my take on it. Anyway, Martin says, Ange would have dropped Taylor, Calmack, Mikey Johnson. Well, he dropped Mikey Johnson. He never played Mikey Johnson. How can players not doing their jobs on the park? Rodgers is weak. Should they be left with fans? Yeah. Get Bruni for a few months. Would bring in Bruni, and Bruni wouldn't take the job anyway. But then again, maybe if Brendan says, look, Scott, you're going to come in and just help me out to the end of the season, just to motivate these players and really get them. Bruni would probably go, no, because that's Callum McGregor's job, and it would be like I'm stepping on Callum's toes, which he wouldn't want to do. So anyway, Things have went Pete Tong since Mark Lawwell walked into the club. I wouldn't say since Mark Lawwell walked into the club. I think Mark's done not too bad. It's the fact that his dad walked back into the club that's kind of been the bugbear to fans. Smell Golf says, I think Rodgers will be off in February, same month as before. Not a chance. Not a chance. I don't believe that. Don't believe that for a minute. Because we've only got about 4 games left until the winter break, and then we only have one game at the end of January. There's not a chance that we're going to get beat by Bucky Thistle. If we get beat by Bucky Thistle, but he'd be better just saying, "There's my quote. Just take it. Just take it, and I'll go. Take it, I'll go." We're far too easy to play against. Press higher up the pitch and push up our midfield. Give us no time on the ball. 9 times out of 10. Yep. Anybody knows that. Muscat's a good manager. I don't care if he played for the 100 million years. I wouldn't go for Muscat personally, just because I don't think that he's not won anything. Well, he did. Did he win the league in Japan? I'm not sure. You've got to remember, Ange Postecoglou had a history of winning at successful at clubs before he was in Japan, so he does have this resume of winning in leagues. I don't think Kevin Muscat has that. James says the prospect players and on our youth money to buy first team ready. Yes, no need. Keep Rodgers says, oh boy, keep Rodgers. We're going to keep him anyway. I don't think that he's going to leave or we're going to sack him. That's definitely not. It's going to cost us far too money. Anyway, Nicholson just makes the tea for Lowell. Yes, I think so. And Michael Ross says the same people that slag off Muscat slagged off Ange's appointment. Do you think so? Would he have us playing better? I mean, no, I wouldn't go for him because then the Sevconians would say, "No, he's a poor Rangers. No, he didn't get the Rangers job. Now you're going to take him? No, I wouldn't take him just for that." And none of the players have been given a proper chance. Bernardo does a good job, then dropped. Taylor can't defend but plays every time almost. It's a joke. This is true, Martin. And we then put our own youth players out on loan and then buy in 20-year-old and 21-year-old players to then play. It's a completely bizarre setup. And it's something that, and surely if Brendan Rodgers was coming in and he'd be going, look, right, we've bought these players in, we're going to have to play them. But there's 20-year olds coming through the B team that need regular football, first team football, to be on the periphery of getting experience. And what we're going to do with them? Well, you'll need to put them on loan. So Rodgers doesn't have the cojones that he had the first time round, I think, personally. Alistair Bell says, Lawwell needs to go. I don't think Rodgers complete next season. He will quit and leave us vulnerable position again. I don't think he will, but I can understand why people think that. The board needs to look at a replacement to step in. Oh, don't say that. Oh, Nicholson's taking a back seat since Lawwell. He has, hasn't he? He has. And that's probably one of the disappointment things. Because Nicholson was all cheery and things before Lawwell stuck his ugly face back in the scene. Anyway, Slaven says, we're not competing in training. We need to offload at least 10 players and buy 3 or 4 starters. Carmack said we need more quality. That doesn't resonate well. I don't think it resonates well with anyone at the club saying that we need more quality. And it doesn't, well, does it though? Do the players understand that the level of quality that are needed is maybe experience wise? When they talk about quality, sometimes when players and managers talk about quality, they're actually meaning experience, and that's what will be portrayed to the players that aren't quality. It will just be that, look, these guys aren't experienced enough to understand the pressure that goes along with playing with Celtic. That pressure of winning, must win every game, is a pressure that you don't really get at a lot of other clubs. Like I said, you can win the league in other clubs and still drop points, but at Celtic, there's the demand to win every game. And sometimes younger players can struggle with that. So when they talk about bringing in quality, maybe they should use the word experience. Maybe that's something that Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor and co need to change. Change the wording. Change it from quality to experience would probably be a better use of the English language. Not that mine's is that great. Anyway, could you imagine if we dropped points to Livy? Just take my coat now, chill pill. Tactically change. I need the players to thrive when playing more direct. This is true. Get Steve Clark in, not a chance. He plays with five at the back, man. Come on. Steve Clark, he plays with five at the back. Anyway, unthinkable we were playing. I hate to say it, but they will smell blood when they visit. They will, right. Let's forget the game that we've got next week and we'll jump in the game we've got after that. We'll jump forward to the end of the month. Remember that they'll have no away fans. No away fans whatsoever. It's imperative that every single Celtic supporter makes as much noise as they can at that game. We need to get them fearing. Our fans are never going to do that. Jesus, what am I talking about? Peter King's heard he's been dumped. Not at all. Peter, if you'd heard that, I would have had a text about it about an hour before you. And nobody on our group chat's talking, and that's guys that sit in the main stand, just to the left hand side of the directors. And they generally hear things like that first. So I think you're hearing wrong then, just starting some nonsense. We've now sell a Clifford Pound. Players need to step up to the plate now. Their attitude is all wrong. It's not all Rodgers' fault. Yeah, that's true. Diane says, see them winning a trophy for once. Yeah, who cares? Who cares? It's not better without the Green Brigade, says Michael. Owen was a replacement for Matt O'Reilly. Bernardo was a replacement for Hatate. None moved on. Lager and Rocky would have been a replacement for Starfelt and Kobayashi. Palmer for Jota. Give it time. Give it time. Will Paolo Bernardo get a full term contract at Celtic? I'm still undecided on that. I don't think he's had the impact that we kind of thought he would make. The player that coming from Portugal, he hasn't done enough for me, and I can't at this point see Celtic parting with 6 million for a player that wanders about midfield and doesn't do it for me. Anyway, Michael Ross says, it's not better without the Green Brigade. Talking about the atmosphere at games, the Green Brigade will roar the team over the line. Says, oh boy, time without Rodgers would be better. Paul Baird says, the Green Brigade should never have been banned. Sevco board would never ban the Union Bears. This is very true. We actually miss Jura. Yes, Juranovic. We do miss him. We do miss him. But he wanted to try football in Germany. He wanted to move on. So fair play to him. He sees the move to Germany as a part of his bigger footballing journey. It was known in the summer that we needed 4 experienced players. Yes, everybody to a T said that. The board needs to back Brendan Rodgers big time in January. The way we get the chance to bed in and get themselves settled for next season. A lot of people are saying it's just like COVID, the lack of atmosphere is troubling the team. I think so. I think so. 300 jobs missing from 5,000. What an excuse for the rest of the support in the world to create and sing an atmosphere. Yes, well, Doc, it's the truth, though. You can't deny it's the truth. You can't say what's it. You know, if you hear it, you hear it. You know, there's no atmosphere without the two groups in there. So anyway, any word in the Green Brigade getting back? No, not as yet. It's only Monday. They might have had some conversation. But I doubt they would have had conversations today because Celtic PLC would have been rather busy, probably with Brendan and meetings today. Too busy to meet the boys and that. But as soon as I hear anything from any of the guys, I will let you know. Lorna says, yeah, the atmosphere is awful at the moment. Never thought I'd say that about Paradise. I've been saying it for a long time now. There's been some bad results recently. I think we have to look at the number of injured players we have. I've said that as well. James Forrest. Jamesy Forrest is on. We had James is on. Hey. A few players will be back in January. Will be okay. Can't be the real James Forrest. Bet it is, Tay. All right, man. If Kyogo was on loan at the moment, we'd be chasing him at the end of the season. I hope he finds his form. Hi. This is a dig getting players in that are SPF, English Premiership that aren't getting a game. Shane Duffy and Phillips, great. Woohoo. Yes. Simon Wolski, by the way, anonymous. He was anonymous. against the game yesterday. I never watched it, so I couldn't tell you. I feel the board are doing, Brendan, what they did before. You don't become a rubbish manager overnight. Let's just wait to the next transfer window. I think this will be. I think Brendan is publicly stating his case for bringing in more experienced players. I'm not going to go down the road and say what they're saying. It is about experience. We're needing experienced players in. We don't need prospect players. It'll be interesting. We need to wait to the next transfer window and see what happens. And this will tell us if if there is a split between Brendan Rodgers and the board. Well, Lawwell. Um, that will tell us then. You'll know. Come the end of January, if Brendan hasn't got in the players that he's wanted, we'll know. The rest of the fans aren't creating atmosphere. 1967. That's the problem. Yeah, it is a problem. Give us the name of the players that I want. Nah, because we're never going to get them. We're never going to get them. And it's not the video for that. I'll do that on another video in between the holidays. Okay, we'll do that on a video in between the holidays. Did I say Phillips? Phillips played 45 games in his career, hardly experience. Do your homework. Yeah, but that's the type of players that you're looking at, though. He had one good season. He had one good season with Liverpool. One good season. That's not experience. Do you know what I mean? You're saying bringing in experienced players that are not getting game time. If they're not getting game time, there's a reason that they're not getting game time in the Premiership. They're probably past it. So then we then go out and bring in players of the quality of the goalkeeper, Joe Hart. Because let's face it, Joe Hart was without a club before Celtic came calling to him. So anyway, smart arse. There's no need to get like that tonight. I thought we were going to be all nice and calm tonight, 1967, Doc. Jeez, Rodgers got his last team relegated. Plenty of time to turn that around. They're mince pies. I knew that anyway. It was interesting that I had so many of them on. They scored in the 70th minute. Was it the 70th minute? Ah, well, was it? I don't know. I never watched their game. And I didn't even, the only thing I knew is they won. Michael Ross, we're mints at the moment. Yes, we are that. Draw the line underarmed and let's move forward. And we do need to do that. And that's why I'm saying can the manager turn it around, and what does he have to do to turn it around? And it's to get more out of the players. And for me, he has to stop slating the players and saying that, look, we need to bring in experience, not in more quality. Because bringing in more quality is basically saying to the players, you're not Ludogov. And Ange left us with dud players. They made him look good when he left. The sheep were dreadful. Brøndby isn't great stats anyway. No, this is true. Lawwell did that with McGinn. Yes, he did. He did that. He did that with McGinn. Let's not go down that road because that was what started the whole ball rolling for Brendan Rodgers leaving the first 10 rounds. And Lawwell making sure that he got his pound worth of flesh and the compensation of 11 million for Brendan Rodgers. He was never going to turn that down. The players look as if they're down tools. I don't think they've looked as if they're down tools. I don't think they understand. When you go from the team that we had on the road to 9 in a row, and the amount of players that played in that team for a long time and knew success and knew what Celtic were about, there's not many players in that team just now that really get Celtic. You're talking about Jamesy Forrest, Callum McGregor. That's your most experienced players that know what Celtic's about and know the pressure that comes with playing for Celtic, know the pressure of having to turn up every day. So it's not good enough just to turn up and have about 50% of your capacity, if you like, or your performance levels. You need to turn up and do 110% every day. Or never mind that you're not getting. It's like you hear this, and you see this. This is what happens at Celtic when you do not do things right. This will get worse. Callum McGregor was probably saying this will get worse if you guys don't up your game. And if you guys don't up your game, you'll not be here next season. That'll be the kind of words that Callum McGregor probably said to them. Will that motivate the guys enough? Have they seen enough of a winning mentality at Celtic to up their game? Well, it's all going to be. It'll be interesting to see what happens next weekend. We'll never sell a club for it's the biscuit tin mentality holding Celtic back. Holding Celtic back. Right, I'm just going to see if there's news kicking about. The Celtic headlines. Player sold by Manchester City for 350,000 to Celtic is now amongst one of the best players in the world. And it looks like Celtic might get that big knock on from a player that was sold for 10 million. John Hartson floats damning Celtic dressing room theory. I'm not going to go into that because if it's just a theory, if he's not heard anything, I don't think it's right to um, try and think that we know what's going on in the dressing room. So, no, I am just going to this. When you see, just got to check it, this other site to see any news. Right, when we look forward, we do have our next game, which is obviously Livingston, 23rd this weekend at home. At home to Livingston. Livingston are ranked rotten, so you're going to take that as a home win. Hopefully, the Green Brigade are back in, and then we've got Dundee away. Oh, the Riot of Dundee. Who remembers that from a few years ago? The Riot of Dundee on on Boxing Day. The Riot of Dundee that was never a riot, and it was the Scottish media just making up total nonsense. But it was a good away day. It was a fantastic away day. Anyway, that's the games that are coming up. Can Celtic do enough to win those games? Yes. Can Celtic do enough convincingly to beat Livingston this weekend? I'm going to say yes. James Smith says that Parkhead is like a ghost town now, even with the Green Brigade. His hat and scarf band. Parkhead is now shouting something instead, sitting on your arses. Yes. Everyone at the club and fans all have to stick together. The board can fix this by letting the fans back in for a start. I really want to talk about them, Joe Paul. I've heard a lot from real good insiders that Rodgers has lost the dressing room. Well, of course, people are going to say that, and of course, he's lost the dressing room. When you publicly come out and say we're going to bring in players of a better quality, is the wrong thing to say. What you need to say is we're going to go out and bring in some more experienced players to help this group of players out. Because sometimes in football, you only need that language. For me, Brendan Rodgers is using the wrong language, and that's one thing that I would say to him. I would say, look, I think that you are using the wrong language in public, and I think if you were to use rather than bringing in bringing in experienced players rather than better quality. Because let's face it, that's what he means. That's what he means, and that's what we want. Viagra will lift the tools. Only if you've got a problem. But pardon me, Edward, if that's an issue, I'm sure the wife will enjoy the Viagra. Chilpel, they were diabolically bad. Going to jump through some of these comments. That Bront has terrible stats. Divide we fall. Yes, true. Honestly, get Scott Brown back to motivate the team. Get Scott Brown back to motivate the team. Right, I'm going to jump through these comments because there's loads of comments tonight. And I'm sorry if I've missed it. New York City is in the house. New York is in the house this evening. Desmond, I quote, my shares will never be sold in my lifetime. Yes, that's his son. So said that. And it's probably a good thing. And like I said, do you know, it was 1967 doc, I think it was, it said, should Celtic go down the road of being fan ownership, a bit like Motherwell? And no, no. Desmond wouldn't sell his shares anyway. Selling them to the fans is the wrong thing completely. And Desmond would sell after a boycott, says Slaven. He's not going to sell after a boycott. Celtic fans are never going to boycott games like that was in the back in the 1990s. That's never going to happen in this day and age. There's a queue of 10,000 people want to take your seats. If you start boycotting games, Celtic will just sell your seats to someone else that's standing outside on the phone that will quite gladly stab you in the back and go, yeah, I'll come and watch the game. That's how disjointed this is. We're turning into a Man City or a Man United. We're turning into a Man United of Scottish football. That's what we're turning into. We've held all this years and years of fantasticness, and it's the fans are getting a bit disjointed because we're not having the levels of success that they think we should have. Anyway, Sure, even Baz and Phil Timms, if Ange comes in with 25 million for Kyogo, I would jump at it. Take it. Take it. That would be, I would take it. 25 million for Kyogo right now, you would say, give me a pint of what Big Ange is drinking and take the money. Kyogo needs to get to the gym to force change. Boycott games, we would never boycott games. The Celtic support are far too disjointed. And this is not a dig at the support in general. This is just having been bus convener for the best part of 5 years and having daily contact within that environment, the club as a whole is far too disjointed to have a mass kind of boycott of anything to do with Celtic. So it wouldn't happen. The only time that people would it wasn't even a boycott. It was the Ronnie Dyler years, and people didn't think it was a sexy enough manager, and they weren't interested because let's face it, that other team for the other side of Glasgow wasn't in the league. So anyway, boycott and do what? And we move on from that. If we win the league, if we don't win the league, Rodgers is going, yeah, but that's 6 months down the line. Let's talk about that then. It's not the point talking about it just now. Let's get him. Let's get a decent transfer window in. Let's see how good the board back him. If they don't back him, yeah, I can fully understand why there will be calls for Brendan to be sacked. But then, is it really Brendan's fault, or is it the board's fault for not backing him and do? We've got nearly £100 million sitting in the bank, for goodness sake. Yet we're scrambling around knocking back players because of 300 grand at the summer. Mark Lawwell has been awful. He came in after the three Japanese players, Mattarelli was signed, pretty much been awful since then. You've got to remember, it was Ange Postecoglou that wanted Mark Lawwell at Celtic. It wasn't Celtic, it was Ange Postecoglou that wanted him. He had worked with him in the City group before. So, you've got to blame Ange for that one as well. Bucky Thistle fans will get a lift hearing their fans singing on the hoops. Well, that. Cut right sleeve. Yep. 12 points before the break is a must. And yes, and rebuild too. Yes. 12 points is a must before the break. If Ange comes in with 20 million for Kyogo, the club is snatching it out of his hand. Yes, exactly. Because the board would be worried fans would not. James, for years now, there's been a waiting list at Celtic Park. The board are not worried about anyone not renewing their season tickets. They're trying to make sure The reason that the Green Brigade have been banned for so long is they're trying to make them that disjointed and that fall out of love with Celtic that much that they don't want to come back to games. That's what the club wants. The club wants a stadium full of prawn sandwich brigades that will cheer when you're winning, sit there, enjoy the game. You're no longer a fan, you're a customer. Is that the kind of Celtic that you want? Because that's what would happen, and that's what's happening now, let's be honest. It's what's happening now. It's a case of, the Celtic fan base has went from 20 years ago under the Martin O'Neill era, and even before then, we went from a fan base that would absolutely bring the rafters down on Celtic Park. I can remember coming out with my ears ringing. You can now go into certain sections and stands in Celtic Park, and you can hear it's like an MSSR video. Oh, fucking goal that was. Ah, anyway, right, just get some hilarity. There's only 7 minutes to go. There is only 7 minutes to go. I'm going to jump through the comments. First Hun appearance. Is there a Hun? Is there? I've not even noticed him. I'll leave him to it. It's Paul Bandom yet. Anyway, I could hear my pal in section 104 open a packet of cheese and onion, and I was in Springfield Road. It was that quiet. Get the spanners blocking Chow Pal. You're getting back. Right, wait a minute till I jump on to Chow Pal. There we go. Chow Pal, you've got your spanner back. More stand. There we go. Chow Pal, you have your spanner back. I did get rid of them a few months ago because I felt there was too many people with spanners and it was putting people off. Anyway, Paul Bear's in the house. Phillips making Duffy look good. Is that know my name? Calm down. One trophy. Oh no, it's no know my name, is it? Is he back? Is he back? Oh, right, I've not even seen him. That's how interested I've been. Well, I've been going through the comments, but I haven't seen him. But as you're saying, our club isn't working class anymore. It's not working class anymore. Edward, I'm going to get that comment up. Of course, it's not working class anymore. Our club stopped being working class donkeys ago. Absolutely donkeys ago. Look, we've got an ex-Police Scotland guy as chief of security at Celtic Park. He's been there for flipping donkeys. He's a Hun. He hates everything about Celtic, but he's chief of security at Celtic. And when you've got working class fans getting kicked out for saying anything now, and when you've got, you're going to get me going now, when you've got fans media, um, and hats off to all these, to all the other YouTubers out there that are fans media that go along to press conferences and try and get their questions asked. But you've got to remember, they're highly vetted. They're highly vetted. They can't use any of their own photography, right? They can't use any of their own audio. They've got to get it all from Celtic. It's all censored what they get to put up. The questions are censored before they get to ask them. If they put it out a different point of view, they get banned. Is it a democracy? No, it's not a democracy at Celtic, and it's not the way that, and it's certainly not something that I would adhere to, and that's why I would never ever want to go and be one of these fans media, because it's like, you've got to ask the questions that are going to get right to the bone, cut into the bone, and unfortunately our fans media doesn't do that. And if you do it, you get banned. You're getting people chucked out the stadium left, right, and centre. There was, what was it, 5 arrests at the weekend because people were shouting "sack the board" and stuff. Get a grip, man. Or it's probably because folk were going on the pitch more like anyway. That's just really got the, that set the heather light, that one. Right, let's jump through the comments. And they also signed off the Official Secrets Act too. Yeah, people are yeah, are they? Oh, yeah, because are saying our club isn't working class. Yeah, our club isn't working class anymore. It definitely isn't. Fan media all banned now anyway by law. Will. I don't think they will be. I don't think fans media will be banned. Your fans media will still be in. And it's just interesting that I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not on a live there. It's not illegal to shout "sack the board." It's not illegal to shout "sack the board," but it's the same. It's not illegal to shout Free Palestine." And look at all the trouble that caused. So yeah, that was a lot of excitement. So it has been a fantastic night. I'm going to see if there's any more Celtic news kicking about. John Hartson, Peter Grant, not. Who actually owns Celtic? This is an interesting one. Celtic Star have just put this out. So if you want to go and see it, it's on the Celtic Star site. So who owns Celtic? So this is due to the CelticStar.com, who actually owns Celtic. Dermot Desmond is the club's largest shareholder with 34.64% of the shares. His valuation is 51 million. So if I win the lottery, if I win the Spanish, the big one, I'll come in and I'll buy his shares. Not that he would sell them anyway. Up after that is Chris Trainer. Christopher Trainer owns the second largest amount of Celtic shares at 11%, 11.2%, at a valuation of 16 million. He is a business owner of Forest Media Outdoor Advertising Company, and it's worth more than 32 million from. So even though the Scottish entrepreneur is the biggest stake after Dermot, he doesn't hold a position on the board of directors. Perhaps that's down to his own choice. Even more baffling, you consider the former chief executive Lawwell, who's a board member, owns just 0.37%. So that's an interesting one, that this guy, Chris Trainer, owns the second largest amount of shares, valued at 16 million. That's a healthy amount of money that you've got in the shares at Celtic, but you have nothing to do with it. Who is Chris Trainer? Who is Chris Trainer? Um, Paul, the Euro Millions. No, the Spanish do a lottery on the 23rd. It's called the Grande, the big one. And basically, whole towns can become millionaires. There was a whole village basically that became millionaires last year. Anyway, who is this guy? We need to look into this guy, Chris Trainer. Christopher David Trainer holds the second largest amount of shares at 11.2%, valuation of 16 million. His business, Forest Media Outdoor Advertising Company, reaped in more than 32 million from he reaped in 32 million from the sale. Interesting one. Absolutely interesting one. The next up is James Keane, who's the third largest shareholder at 6%, 6.247%, stake in the club. He is the owner of the Woolen Mill in Kiltrain. It's one of the biggest clothing market in Scotland. Like Chris Trainer, he's not a member of the board, despite having such a large stake in the club. It doesn't say what that stake is worth, though. That's 6%. Tom Allison is the next biggest shareholder. He holds 3.5%. While occupying a position on the board of directors, a position that he's held since 2001. He holds much more influence than Keane and than people with a bigger stake in him. That's interesting that a guy that doesn't have as big a stake, why do those two shareholders not have a say in what's going on at the club? It's interesting. So there's two Scottish guys that between them own the best part of £20 million worth of shares in Celtic, but they are silent shareholders and have nothing to do with the club. Minor shareholders, the rest of the shareholders are minor, so that's your big ones there. That's an interesting one. That is an interesting one. Dermot Desmond, the biggest one. The next after him is Chris Trainer, and then James Keane, and then Tom Allison, who's on the board. Tom Allison's been on the board since 2001, even though he only owns 3.5% of Celtic. 3.5%, that's all that it would take to get you on the board. It's no wonder that the Celtic Trust is trying to get as much money together to buy shares as possible. It would be interesting to see if the Celtic Trust managed to get well, they wouldn't get someone on the board, but is it an old Pals Act? Yes, Lanky. It's all a Pals Act. Is it a Pals Act? Anyway, that has been a fantastic evening this evening. We've had quite a lot of people online. I'm just going to check the thumbs up situation. I'll need to refresh this page. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, share it on social media, do whatever. It's only got 68 thumbs up. Get hitting the thumbs up before we end the video. Keep the faith, says Lorna. How many shares does Rod Stewart have? Rod Stewart probably doesn't have any shares. Absolutely no shares whatsoever. He is just one of these ones that comes in and gets a little seat, gets some free bevy, and goes to fans. And on that note, have a fantastic evening. Celtic fans all around the world. And it's a shame we only had one South Korean tonight.